Welcome back to Let the Journey Begin. I am your host, Jason Waller, alongside my co-host, Hilary Roberts. Happy New Year, Hilary. How are you?
You know, I've been good.
Yeah.
And I've been a little bit hormone insane.
Let's
but
talk
I'm
about
okay. Oh God. Well, you know, when I had the blood clot, I had the blood clot, they put me on stuff to get it down, and then I have to wait to get another blood test for later on, so that I can get back on hormone replacement. But I called the doctor today because last night, I mean, I've been losing my mind. It's been getting worse and worse and worse. And
what's that look like?
Out of my mind last night and overwhelmed, like every little thing. And that's when I called the doctor today. They called when we were on our business call. And I'm like, you have got to put me on something and I feel so bad for any women that have any kind of hormone imbalance because the struggle is real. Last night, Greg was holding me while I was crying. I was just like, he's so laid back though. It's just without hormone help, I am not myself. I am Hilary Monster Roberts.
No, and I think it's important to bring that up and talk about that again. There's obviously the side that we're joking on, but I mean, God, that hormone thing is real, and it can definitely be debilitating and, you know, emotionally unstable, and it's a process to go through. But on a more positive note, you know, I'm sorry that you're going through that, but I'd love to know what is your goal for 2022? Like, what are you wanting to accomplish, or what are you wanting to get done?
Man, well, you know that they're going to be. Greg and I have been working on the fertility stuff. And so
you got twins or what?
we're gonna have two little bassy Jason Cray Crays.
So your real goal for 2022 though is to have a family, right?
Yeah, that's one of them. Another one is what we're doing with Red Songbird and all the amazing things of how that's growing. And you know, we've been documenting our journey with the fertility stuff, and this month we will see how the eggs and they're going to put everything together and see how the embryos grow. And so that's, you know, I'm really having to give that to God, and that is our desire to start our family. And it's going to, you know, it doesn't happen overnight, so you kind of want to go through the processes. We've done the blood work for for all of the chromosomal deficiencies, and you just check everything, and we'll get, once they go to Blastus, then they test everything. So, and then you got to do this. I'm going to have a surrogate because I can't carry.
Yeah.
But number one is to smooth out the hormones. The next one is to, do the fertility, and also really keep building our Red Songbird stuff and doing what we're doing, bro.
I love it. No, it got some good stuff lined up. You got some big things ahead of you, and exciting to watch all that unfold. And
oh my gosh! And I didn't tell you this. So I started working with a trainer last month. Actually, Greg's trainer.
Right.
And I've really been. I really like the sculpting that they do with like the bikini figure kind of stuff that the fitness gals do. And so he's been like working with my body to kind of build it in ways like that, because that's one of my goals, that I want to be feminine but fit.
You want to be a bodybuilder?
Not a bodybuilder. It's a bikini. It's more of a very sexy, feminine,
okay,
hot look.
All right, fair enough, man. Okay, all right. You talk to my wife about that now, okay?
Hey, I love hearing you say that, bro, because she is a queen.
Yeah, there we go. Well, look.
What about you? Can I ask you that, or we'll ask you on the next one what your goals are?
Yeah, sure, fair enough, man. No, hey, we got a guest on here. Let's bring the guest on. I want to hear about his story.
This week, we are excited to bring on someone from my neck of the woods, a friend of my sweetheart's, Bobby Ludeman, owner of Lakewood Recovery in Dallas, Texas. Welcome, Bobby.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you guys and be here.
Thanks for joining us, Bob.
I got to meet him briefly at a big recovery party.
You guys all went
December.
Okay.
To Gary Kaufman's, that's right.
Nice. Gary, you're friends with Gary.
Yeah, Gary's actually an advisor I have. Spiritual advisor.
It.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gary's a good dude. I really like that guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I would love to tell you the story about when I knew that guy was going to be my advisor, but I don't know that it would be appropriate.
Fair. Well, speaking of, obviously there has to be some history, leading up to that. So, let's hear a little bit about your background, Bobby. And I wanted to know, what is it that you wanted to be when you grew up?
Man, I'm going to be honest with you. I lost those types of dreams when I was very young. But if I had to go back far enough, if I'm being honest, as a child, I rewatched Top Gun ad nauseum on the cassette tape. And I wanted to be a fighter pilot. That's what I wanted to be. Maverick. That's what I wanted.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. Well, but you say that you lost those dreams a while ago, and what do you mean by that?
Well, pretty quickly, I found drugs and alcohol, right around before. I would probably say before puberty. Right, 12 or 13. And pretty much that became the focus of my life. I remember the first time experiencing smoking weed. And I remember feeling like I could breathe normally, or I felt like I could take an unencumbered breath for the first time in my life. And I felt like all the angst and the anxieties that I had kind of melted away. And I knew from that moment, that's how I wanted to feel henceforth. And I felt different immediately from my buddies, my homies that we were doing it with. They were like, "Oh man, we should do this every weekend." I was like, "Yeah." And I agreed with them. But in my head, I was like, "No, I need to do this every day."
Yeah.
And, they would talk about my friend Jim Tucker said something that I have stolen because it resonated so much with me. But he talked about how friends would say, "Hey, we need to get X, Y, and Z for this party this weekend. And then we can do X, Y, and Z at the party. And then, we'll talk to chicks and that's how that's going to go." And I wanted to do all those things. But for me, the event was the drugs and alcohol.
X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, X, Y, and Z was good enough for me. But I didn't share that, because I recognized that even back then I was, it wasn't a conscious, I'm bodily different from my fellows, but certainly that I recognized that maybe on an unconscious level then. And I was like, well, I'm not going to tell the guys that. That sounds weird, What
were some of those feelings that you were experiencing and or thoughts that you were having before you ever picked up a drink or a drug?
First of all, my family of origin stuff really did a lot to kind of mold some of my core beliefs. I had a mom who struggled with maybe not anything that's been identified, but I'm sure there was some I know that there was some self-medication going on, but why or what we were doing, it was all kind of prescribed pharmaceutical stuff. So that resulted in a lot of abuse and weirdness. And I felt like an encumbrance. I felt like an afterthought. I was the reason she wasn't. She was a actress and a model before me, and I kind of ruined that. And so there was a lot going on. And I just remember as I got older, if I can speak frankly, I felt like a piece of, I felt like I wasn't worthy of being around, and children were meant to be spoken, and whatever that saying is. And I just remember whenever I would go to a new setting, whether it was school or a new soccer team or basketball team, baseball, whatever it was, I always felt like everybody always knew what to do. It always seemed like everybody had grouped up and they knew where in the quad to hang, or they knew where to get their lunch, or where their locker was, or how to put their books away and where their classes were. And I always felt like everybody was operating from some manual that I had not been issued. And I didn't have the kind of familial or parental, that kind of wraparound service that I see a lot of parents give me, that I now get to give to my son, to where I felt prepared for any of those situations. So I kind of had to fake it like I knew what I was talking about and I knew what I was doing. But I always certainly felt like whatever inclusion that I experienced, whatever friends, or I guess at that time we'd call it, popularity, I felt like I was always on the precipice of being cast out. If they found out what I really was like, I would no longer be granted entree into that setting,
Yeah, no, I
God,
think
I can relate to that so much.
I love looking back though. I mean, because we all, especially for us that really got the gene, looking back before we actually picked up a drink or a drug where we really struggled, and a lot of people can relate to that, and to bring awareness to that as people are moving forward. So appreciate that insight.
When you started at 12, 13, and then as you progressed, like you already started seeing the problem because you wanted XYZ, not the outcome of what XYZ could do, what your friends wanted. Like, when did you start having, where you're like, I really have a problem with this, I need to get some help. And then eventually your moment of clarity.
It's funny. I remember thinking the first time I experienced that relief, I remember consciously thinking, this is going to be a problem, but that's future Bobby's problem. Like, immediately I remember feeling that way.
Wow.
And kind of maybe, I don't know why, but I had seen my habits forming early on, whether it was I knew where the candy was stashed in the cabinet, and it was I would attain a high just going and gorging myself on all the stuff I wasn't supposed to have as a kid. And then later on it would be lying or manipulating or whatever it was. And I would always take things so far, and then it would have consequences. And I recognized that I was unable to kind of pump the brakes on a lot of that stuff. And when I found this X, Y, and Z, the relief and the feeling was so overwhelmingly effective that I knew that it was too good to be true, and I knew that I would have no chance of putting this away myself. But in the meantime, I was going to enjoy it, because it was the first kind of true enjoyment I had experienced really my entire life up until that point. And by the way, it was not because I had a hard scrabble upbringing. I had every opportunity and every experience ready for me to take advantage of. And I did some, and some I didn't, and some I squandered. My moment of clarity.
Before you get to your moment of clarity, Bobby, what was your XYZ? I want to know what X was and Y and Z.
Well, it started for me.
Cocaine, crack, smack. What do you got?
Heroin was my thing.
Come on.
Yeah. So before everything was said and done, before I left LA, because LA was the problem, it wasn't me. I was shooting heroin, homeless in Santa Monica, bouncing from shelter to maybe a couch here and there where I could get one. And again, it was not because I didn't have a family that was willing to step in and, step into that void and reach a hand out and offer me help. It was because I didn't want the help that was being offered.
Where was Pops during all this?
Dad ended up becoming mom and dad when I was relatively young, but I think those core beliefs that I had spoken about had really been formed. So Dad was actually very available. He was building his career, and there was never a time when he wouldn't pick up my call, or if I wanted to talk to him, he wasn't available. There was no amount of help that he wasn't willing to give. And eventually he got the advice that no, any help you're giving him at this point is only serving to lengthen his sickness.
Right.
Dad was, and is, we are very close. I look up to him, and some of the ways that I honor him are by reaching back and helping families and sons of fathers. That because there's no way I can repay him, and I know that he several times when I was in detox or the psych, before my family knew what was up, and my mom and I had been estranged from the time I was 10 until she passed when I was about 24, 25. Dad would look at me and he would say, if I would make an excuse. Oh no, Dad, I don't want to go to treatment center in Malibu or whatever it was. That was these great things that were being offered that could have absolutely helped. No, I don't have, that's a lot of money. That's the reason I can't do that. And he goes, well, look, I would 1000% eat in a soup kitchen the rest of my life if it meant that I could take this away from you. If I could trade places with you and suffer this, getting emotional thinking about it, because I know he was telling the truth. I knew back then, and I know today he was telling the truth. Maybe not on such a cellular level that I do now, that I have my own 6-year-old, but he meant every word of it. He would have taken loans. He would have chopped off an appendage if that's what would have helped me.
Well, look at you today.
Wow.
You know, when you look back though, and this is something that, you know, somebody asked me that was kind of interesting in hearing your dynamic. What would you advise or say to your younger self, or what would you have done differently?
Experiential building blocks. You know, when I finally got this thing, found some freedom in my life, I was 31, and you know, I had just had my child, and I had some experiences outside of shooting dope, being homeless in Santa Monica. I had moved to New York, and I had begun working, and I had pulled that geographic, which worked for a period of time. And I had experienced some joy in my life that was absent drugs and alcohol. And I saw a little piece of some of the potential that I maybe had, that we all have, realized a little bit, come to fruition. And I was able to harvest some of that. And so when it came time to really get sober, I had that before and after perspective. I knew that there was joy to experience. Whereas some of the younger guys, or if I could talk to my younger self, I don't know how I would be able to impress upon myself, because I was a stubborn, hard-headed, hope to die kid. I didn't see myself lasting as long as I have, to be honest with you. I had big romantic ideas of dying at 27, the way, you know, some of the 27 legend, you know. And by the way, I had none of the talent or skills that they did. I just, you know, delusions of grandeur. But, you know, I see that. I want to tell them it gets better. You know, I was telling Hilary that some of the younger guys, it doesn't have to be this way, is what I would love to tell them. Some of the younger guys, you know, they kind of know their life in recovery, but, you know, there's building blocks, and their building blocks thus far have been, growing up, I was miserable in school. I was miserable at home. Everybody always told me what to do. I didn't have any freedom. The only relief I ever found was in drugs and alcohol. And then I get in trouble, whether it be school, police, or parents. And then parents ship me off to some treatment center where I may or may not have any freedom. But now I'm miserable in the treatment center, but it's more or less the same dynamic. You know, I'm being told what to do, where to be, where to go, and I'm miserable. And I don't really relate to these older guys who come in and talk to us. You know, I don't know what it's like. You know, I remember all the stuff I used to say. I don't know what it's like to lose a family or a business or a house, or shoot, my car isn't even mine, you know? And then after that, they go to, you know, like a sober living. And then it's the same dynamic set up again. And they just know that they're being told to get up, make their bed, go to meditation. And they don't know that, look, there's relief outside of drugs and alcohol. We have that. We can get there. But again, I don't know that I'd want to go back and tell my old self anything, because it was to go through that. You know, the front 9 of my life were extremely difficult. It was a prison that I created myself. But as long as I continue to, you know, grow spiritually and to help others, the back 9 are, you know, different in so many more joyous and free ways.
You know, what's interesting is hearing you talk about, I didn't have parents that would be willing to do all the things your father said he said he would do. Mm-hmm. And to hear that, it just really hit me, because again, this disease is so insidious. And mm-hmm. I think, because sometimes I would wonder, well, what if they would have stepped up for me? Would I've gotten sober younger? But then this disease is so insane that I wouldn't have. And it's really, you really touched me today. It really gave me another perspective of how hard, and I know we help a lot of people, but sometimes certain things I hear and Jay, you know, this just hits you in a certain fashion, because I didn't have that. And I always, you know, I had a lot of self-pity about that. And but I still got sober and I still had a incredible power that got me there. But yeah. And so I want to ask you, because you have this son, I met your sweet son the last month at the event. Tell us how that has impacted your life.
Well, in many more ways than I'll probably be able to codify and list for you now, but I'll tell you some ways that are kind of prescient in my kind of everyday thinking now. My son is 6. His name is Bodhi. He was named after Patrick Swayze's character in Point Break.
Yeah.
I would.
So,
love it.
That's fun. Sometimes I'll try to sound more spiritual, like, oh no, he was definitely named after, how Siddhartha sat beneath the Bodhi tree. But the truth is, it's Patrick Swayze in Point Break.
So funny. I love it.
Yeah. So my son, for the first time, I had to do something for somebody or something outside of myself, whether I wanted to or not. And that's one of those building blocks of experience I'm talking about. I was 31 when he was born. And for the first time, it didn't matter whether I felt like it, whether I had been up late doing whatever it is we do or anything. When he woke up, it was time to be a dad, whether I wanted to or not. And I think that really served me later on down the road, because it conditioned me. There are times now when I do not want to go work with somebody. There are times now when I don't want to pick up the phone, but I do, because I know it's what's got to be done, because that, in this context, is a child that needs to be attended to. They need it more than I need my time of sleep at this time. They need it more than I need time with a girlfriend or out with dinner plans or whatever selfish endeavor that I'm trying to chase down in that moment that's making me lazy or selfish. And I'll tell you the other thing that helped it, my moment of clarity came when I did a cost benefit analysis, not to be too binary with it, but when I had an experience in a Fiesta parking lot, and I had made a decision that, sorry to be crass, but I had decided that I was going to kill myself. Bodhi was 2. He was about to be 3, and he was going to start to understand what was happening. And I couldn't stop shooting heroin. And I decided that when I looked at the timeline of his life, I could continue to re-traumatize this poor boy and his mother over the course of his life. And then, he would look back, and the legacy of his father would be that of a deadbeat traumatizer. Versus my dad died when I was young, which I thought at the time, he might be able to, that would be painful, but it's like ripping a Band-Aid. And so I had decided, look, since I'm incapable of staying sober and I'm incapable of using successfully, I'm going to go ahead and just end this now. But before I do that, I'm going to make an attempt and take suggestion and see if I can get some of the stuff that people talk about who have been down that road before me. And if it doesn't work, that's no problem, because taking my life is still very much on the table. And so I'm going to give it a shot, because I'd still like to be a good dad. I think there is still a life to be led. That's what I wanted. But if I was unable to do that, I could still kill myself, and I had time, So thank God for that moment of clarity. I was like, all right, but that's an extreme decision. Let's try this.
And so from that point though, that's super, super deep, and I appreciate the vulnerability in that.
Yeah.
But so you were obviously actively using in those earlier days of your child's life, and but that was the turning point, and that was the point where you actually surrendered, were willing to take direction, and committed to get the help that you needed.
100%. It in my mind, since I was willing to end this, leave this mortal coil, I had nothing else to lose.
Right.
So I got that gift of desperation, because if this didn't work, I was going to go. So that gift of desperation came with some willingness and some kind of, it allowed me to disengage from ego and pride and be like, look, I don't know what's going to happen. Just tell me what to do. I'm going to do it. And if it doesn't work, that's fine. I got this other plan, and I didn't share that with people, but that was internal.
We were talking briefly before we were recording, and you talked about when you had your son, you talked about not feeling worthy and clean and all this, and then how that changed. Can you just go a little bit into that before we go into our next question?
Absolutely. I love talking about it. By the way, I heard this from another speaker, so I'm kind of appropriating it, but it resonated with me, and it was true for me as well. When my son was born, he came out, and I felt unclean and unworthy to be in the same room as him. I didn't want to, I held him and I put on the smile for the pictures and all sorts of things. And I did all the things I thought I was supposed to do. Once again, just kind of faking it and pretending like I belonged and knew what I was supposed to do. But it did not feel, authentic. I felt dirty, and I was worried that if I touched him, some of my sickness, some of my internal angst, my internal feelings of just, I just would rub off on him. And after watching his mom go through childbirth, I had this newfound respect for her. And I was like, I can't even be in the same room as these two people who are pure, and all that's here is love. And I don't have any place here, and I shouldn't be here. But obviously I didn't share that in the moment. That would have spoiled what was supposed to be a good moment. And I share that with my friends in recovery now who are having children. And I say, you don't have to experience that. You get to experience that moment the way we've been brought up in movies and television to expect that moment to be, with joy and excitement. And this is, men that say, oh, the day of my child's birth was one of the best days of my life. And I didn't experience it that way. That was not the best day of my life. It was an important day, to be sure, but it was not the best day of my life. It was one of the worst. And they don't have to experience that now. And now when I'm around him, when I'm focusing and trying my best to stay present for him, I feel worthy. I feel like I can hug him, and I get to experience him authentically, and he gets to experience his dad. I get to tell him how much I love him, and I'm not faking it. I'm not faking smiles. I'm not, I get to be a dad, and he gets to be my son, and there's not any of that stuff in between us. I'm not waiting to put him to bed so I can run and get my head right or do my issue. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm excited for bedtime a lot of the times, but it's not because I'm going to go do something unhealthy.
How'd you get past that though? Because I think a lot of people, and I mean, this hit home with me, had a same painting, different colors with the experience. But how did you get through that process of being able to be an acceptance for this, and to not feel dirty, not feel unworthy, and to be able to get past that, forgive yourself, and to be the dad that you are?
Little building blocks. Tiny moves, esteemable acts, not big ones, not grand gestures of saving the day, because I've never really felt like any heroic moment in my life. But it was, it started with just showing up. It started with being where I said I was going to be, when I said I was going to be there. And it was just little stuff like that over hard work over a long period of time, consistency. That's what eventually I got used to, this new me. And then I realized, no, this is me. This is not me faking it. I really started to, build those muscles, and now I get to kind of flex them a little bit, and I don't mean that.
Yeah, no, that's great though.
Now, it didn't really hit home until I started to be the one that his mother would call when we were in crisis. I realized we had transitioned from me being the crisis, me being the mess to clean up or the problem, to the guy that's going to help us navigate the problem.
Right.
Wow.
And
so how did you, so this is like all ties in. And it's so incredible to hear this transformation. I think there's a lot of people that have gone through similar experiences to yourself, myself, with having kids. But you talked about the front nine being a brutal, trying experience. At the end of the day, don't know that you would have changed it because it's brought you to where you're at today. Mm-hmm. What does the back nine look like for you, man?
I have accepted. I fought it for a long time. I used to own bars. Before that, I owned a surf shop. And now I own a sober living, and I'm part owner of another one. And really what it allows me to do is be entrenched in this world. And I fought it for a long time because I didn't want to be. It's not sexy. It's not something that's going to make me, absurdly wealthy, which is what I thought I wanted for a long time. But it allows me to have discussions about recovery, and it allows me to stay very connected to the new guy, and it allows me to remember that front nine. And it allows me to stay in a position of being able to be of service, because when I'm doing that, I feel my most authentic. I feel the most, I've made a little money. I've had some business success. I've had a family, I've had stuff, but never have I felt existentially validated. And I'd like to build on that and see, how far I can take that. When I get to work with a new guy is really when I feel the most useful to the world. Right. And again, I fought it, but when I go into the world where I'm around my family or I'm around other guys that I know that are not in our world, and I'm around them and I hear what they talk about and see what they do and how they operate, I realize more and more how that world that I desperately wanted to be a part of is just not attractive to me anymore.
Wow.
And so I'd like to find further acceptance and see, I thought I knew who I was 10 years ago.
Right.
And I don't know who I am today, but I know who I'm becoming. I'm becoming the man I always wished I could be, but never could pull off. I would look people in the eye because I knew that was a powerful communication technique, thereby allowing me to manipulate them better. But now I can look them in the eye without feeling ashamed,
Yeah. So
that's
true.
So good.
Yeah.
So what, this is authentic.
100%. I love that.
Wow. I just love that.
How do you, what does the day look like for you now? How do you, you've gone through a lot of this, but from a bullet pointed perspective, what are some of the key elements that you implement into your life to maintain your sobriety?
Oh, now this is less poetic. I am a creature of extreme routine.
I knew that about you. Yeah, I knew that about you.
When I'm on my routine, I do very well. When I'm off my routine, I'm not doing well. And there's echoes of that 15-year-old stoner who wants to do nothing but sit around and watch movies and snack all day. And so sometimes I'm going through my list of things to do, and I recognize I'm not being present. I'm just trying to cross things off the list so I can go watch Netflix or whatever. And then when I get those days off where I don't have much on the schedule, there's nothing on my calendar, in the morning, I'm like, yes, it's a me day. Well, 2 hours into my me day, I'm miserable. And I'm just all over the place, just begging for something to do. So I tell the guys that I work with, both in the house and in other areas, look, you got to sweat every day. And I tell them this because that's been so helpful for me. I run or I lift. That's a huge part of my life. I've regimented what I eat because I find when I eat better, and by better, I mean cleaner and healthier, I feel better. I sleep better. When I drink a lot of water, I feel better. I pray and I meditate. This is one of the most important things in my day. I center myself to get to a place. My goal, and some days I'm better at it than others, is to be responsive and not reactive. If I can respond to things and not react, I find that I'm far less regretful about interactions I have, decisions.
Thank God you don't have to go through menopause.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, currently, we'll see what happens. You never know. I hit, whether it be a meeting or something that I get to find some community and fellowship. And I try my best to reach out to other people who are in recovery. And what I'll do when I'm feeling maybe not great is I'll call a Hilary or a Jason or the people in my life. And I'll just ask them, hey, what's going on with you? And for the next 10 minutes, I just let them talk. People, if you let them, people want to talk about themselves, as evidenced by my going on about me for the last 20. And you let them talk about themselves. And for that 10, 15, 20 minutes, I do my best to be present and listen. And I try to watch what they're saying as though I'm watching a movie. And by that, I mean, I picture what they're saying in my mind's eye. And I try to watch it like a movie and try to be invested in the things that they're saying. And for that 15 or 20 minutes, I am not focused on me and how much money I don't have, or the car I don't drive, or the things that I think I want that are ridiculous and that have never brought me joy. So I don't know why I keep seeking those types of things when I'm at my more baser motivators. And, I listen to them. And for that 15 or 20 minutes, I get relieved from some of that bondage of self. And at the end of that, I feel better. I'm like, okay, look, I know I've checked in with so-and-so. He's doing okay. And maybe I check in with somebody that I know is not doing great for whatever reason. Maybe they just had a baby or they're struggling with a family member or something. And I say, hey, what can I do for you?
Right.
And I get into that.
Well, with that being said, what would your action for the day be for our listeners? If they had one thing to take away, what would you have them do?
Be of service. Go help somebody. I know it sounds cliche and, but there are people, rich, poor, cool, not cool, whatever, by whatever approximation or by yardstick you use. And there are people they just, when I'm doing that is when I feel the most successful. And I used this phrase earlier because I love it. And it's true for me. I feel the most existentially validated. Humans are social creatures. And when we are helping our fellow humans is what we're kind of more or less designed to do.
That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. Oh my gosh, Bobby, we want to thank you so much for being on our show and opening
my pleasure.
up.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I really had some nice takeaways from this. And I know that, Jason being a parent and you guys going through that same kind of the same thing with your kids being born and everything. It's just been beautiful. And I love hearing men's vulnerabilities. I think it's so important, as we grow as a society, that men are given permission more and more to let down those walls and heal more. It's beautiful.
Yeah, phenomenal job, Bobby. So, hey, if people want to find out more about you or, your program, Lakewood, where can people go?
Yeah, they can just go to www.lakewoodrecovery.com. You can find me on Instagram, Bobby Ludeman. Other than that, just happy to be a part of whatever,
Very grateful for your story, man. And really resonates, really relates. And I think there's, again, a lot of people that this is going to touch. So appreciate you sharing your story, man.
Jason,
You're
Hilary,
so
thank you
awesome.
so much.
Thank you, Bobby. Thank you.
Appreciate you, brother.